والإفادة والاستفادة والدعاء إلى الهدى والدلالة على الخير والحث والتمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسول الله ابتغاء مرضات الله وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى. Praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Praise is worthy of the beneficent bestower of bounties and favours, and we ask our Lord Most High to send copious and unlimited and eternal blessings and salutations upon the Prophet Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So as we've been dealing the last couple of weeks, the Imam has set down a few pages and a few paragraphs that really define the life of the world we live in today, and defines how we should lead our lives with regards to not only our outlook towards Allah and towards our deen, which is first and foremost in our lives, but also our outlook towards the world around us, generally speaking, and our dealings, and also to the goals and aspirations that we have in regard to our own lives and how we wish to lead those lives. And we tried to emphasize as much as possible in the previous couple of weeks how important it was, and it was quite disappointing to go through the revision and really I think the level of understanding or the level of appreciation about how important what the Imam is saying didn't seem to come across to the majority of those present. And I think that the person who doesn't take heed of what the Imam is saying is really going to be in a difficult situation as time progresses and as we get closer to our own demise and to the end of time. And the Imam is giving us extraordinarily timely and very poignant and relevant advice to our own lives. And the more we heed that advice and the more we embody that advice, the more likely, inshaAllah, that we are to be those who are successful not only in this life, but at the end of times and then in the next life, inshaAllah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I think that we're neglectful of the advice of the Imam at our own peril. So it's up to us to decide what I suppose weight we give to the words of the Imam and how much we embody the words of the Imam. And while we're on that topic, that someone asked a question about the ruling about riba and etc., and it was a good question. It was a relevant question. But the thing that I want to impress upon each and every one of you and myself is that one of the excuses that we have to have su'u dhan, or one of the times when it's wajib to have su'u dhan, in other words, not give someone the benefit of the doubt, is that the person whose knowledge we take from. So if we take knowledge from someone, it's incumbent upon us to delve into that person's past and their character and their conduct and decide if that's the type of person we want to take knowledge from. Once we've determined that that person is the type of person we can take knowledge from, then we need to trust in that individual. We need to trust in Imam Shafi'i or Imam Abu Hanifa, whoever it might be, that the rulings they've come up with, it's not because his name is Imam, Nafi', you know what I mean, and his Imam Abu Hanifa. It's because of his firstly his makana with Allah, his position and his status with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's first and foremost. No one can achieve fame, no one can achieve status, no one can achieve notoriety, no one can achieve a rank amongst the scholars without the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and without the divine decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why these people have the status and the stage that they have. And secondly, that once we've delved into their past and their history, and for us it's very easy to look at the four Imams, because like I said, there's been literally tens, if not hundreds of millions of scholars that have looked at their works and just been dumbfounded, have looked at their works and said, like for example the statements and the works of Socrates and Plato and these people that lived thousands of years ago, that they're not famous and their names haven't been, and Einstein, who died whatever 50 odd years ago, whatever it might be, and these people whose quotes kind of transcend time and their statements about life transcend time. It's not because of their good looks or because they're being sponsored by someone, whoever the case might be. It's because of the reality of their statements, and the reality of their statements, their truth, and they ring home to humankind. And when it comes to the Imams, it's the same thing. These people, Allah Azza wa Jalla has elevated them, and once they make a statement that for us to doubt one mas'ala, and I'm not being critical of the question, I'm just trying to use it as to raise a point so that we can be aware of the scholars. And I don't mean every scholar, by the way, not everyone that you consider or you hear to be a scholar, but in particular the Imams and those that are near them. They've stood the test of time. Like Imam Abu Hanifa is nearly 1300 years, and Imam Malik 1250 years, and Imam Shafi'i roughly 1200 years, and Imam Ahmed 1150 years. So it's a long time. It's a long time of scrutiny and a long time of people looking at what they've said and trying to decipher if it's true, if it's false, or if there's any deficiency in it, and not being able to find it. And the places where there are deficiency, it's being worked upon. It's not that they're perfect. It's not that we're saying anything of that nature. The perfection belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the Prophet ﷺ has a portion of the perfection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. After that, there's no perfection, and that's not at all, please don't get me wrong, that's not at all what we're saying. What we're saying is that these scholars, their masail have been tried and proven time and time and time and time and time again. So of course, Abu Hanifa, when he looks at the ruling, and when Sayyidina al-Abbas, when he migrated, of course that was before the Fatah of Mecca. And so that was before the Islamic rule was applicable to Mecca. And of course Abu Hanifa knows what he's talking about in that regard. And ikhtilaf al-ulama, how much we may like it or may not like it, it's not for us to have an emotional attachment to something that we don't like. So for example, if I'm a person that says, no, riba, absolutely, it's haram, there's no excuses for it, okay, I might feel that way. But it's not that I discount the opinion of Abu Hanifa, whether it's my madhab or not. That's not the attitude of a person who's travelling to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The person who's travelling to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, particularly those scholars that are mawthuq, that are trustworthy, and they're guaranteed. It's a guarantee with these people. Especially these scholars that are guaranteed. We take what they say, sami'na wa ata'na. In other words, we hear and obey. And what the scholars have spoken about with regard to them, where they've not seen a hadith or whatever, they made mistakes. Where the other scholars have said they unanimously agree, the scholars, that they've made a mistake, yeah, it's a mistake, no worries. But the stuff that has passed through, it's not attached to Abu Hanifa, or it's not attached to Imam Shafi or Malik or Imam Ahmed. It's not attached to them personally. It's their legal reasoning. And it's their makana, their status with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we respect. As a human being, they came and they went. As many other human beings came and went previously, if we want to look at it that way, so we can understand the context of what we're trying to say. But it's the scholars, if we don't trust wholeheartedly in them, we've lost our deen. And unfortunately, that's a pervasive theology and a pervasive philosophy and ideology that's it's endemic in the ummah right now. It's endemic in the ummah right now that, if I don't make my own, just the other day I was speaking to someone, I want to make my own, I want to read the hadith and make my own rulings. I'm like, yeah, okay. If you were to be sick and you had to have a knee operation, how many books would you be satisfied to read before you could perform your own knee operation? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And then, look, even when we look to, it's sunnah, we want to follow the Prophet. Who did the Prophet follow? Before Allah. Jibreel alayhi salam. Jibreel alayhi salam was a teacher of the Prophet alayhi salam. So here we are trying to tell people that, oh yeah, I can make my own rulings about my own deen. That's a definite way for a person to fall into folly. It's a definite way for a person to follow the way of shaitan. It's a definite way. That's what he did. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that I'm going to injara fil ardi khalifa. When I blow inside Sayyidina Adam, make sajda. And say, Azazil is the shaitan. He made his own ruling. That's what he did. Don't be in any doubts about what he did. He made his own ijtihad. In other words, his own ruling, his own deduction, legal deduction about the ruling of Allah. Allah clearly said, when I blow the life into him, all the angels and whoever's there, being Iblis, go and prostrate to him. But he's like, no, I'm better than him. That was his tahleel. That was his ijtihad. And his ijtihad was wrong, mind you. And his ijtihad was wrong, mind you. He said, fire is better than clay, because he's made from a smokeless fire. All jinns, they're made from a smokeless fire. And Sayyidina Adam is made from two components, water and dirt. The pretty much the strongest, I suppose you can say, the strongest, the most powerful sort of weapon today is the hydrogen bomb, which comes from water. And oxygen burns at a much higher temperature than a smokeless fire. Even in that sense, because that's what Shaitan was looking at, the power. But then when you look at the other side, that's one side of it, that's the water. But what does water do? It gives life. What does clay and dirt do? It holds life. So if you want to look at the destructive aspect of what's in a human being, it's much more powerful than a smokeless fire. And if you want to look at the positive aspect of a human being, then its life is based in who we are and what we're about. So even his ijtihad, even his reasoning about the hukm or the ruling of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was incorrect. And we're going to put ourselves in that boat when A'udhu Billah Azza wa Jal. Anyone who thinks they can read, and especially when the person I was speaking to doesn't even read Arabic, doesn't even have all the other science of Arabic, they want to read in English and make their own interpretation of what's sahih and what's not and whatever. And look, don't blame the person, that's what's out there. That's what's out there on the internet, that's what's out there, that's what people are talking about. And unfortunately it's popular. So young people in groups, oh no, don't do that, do this. And it sounds like it's logical. Yeah, I'll do my own, I'll only use the Sahih Hadith, 2 books, Bukhari, Muslim, and I won't use anything else, and only 3 or 4 scholars, and don't worry about everyone else. That's not deen. If you want to do that, it's up to you, but it's not deen. You've decided what you want to take from the deen. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, "Idkhulu fi silmi kafa." Enter into the deen completely. That means all the things you like and all the things you don't like. So if you come across a ruling that you don't like, don't say, oh, I'm not into this ruling. Say, Allah, give me understanding. You say, Allah, make dua and ask Allah Azza wa Jalla, make wudu, pray 2 rak'at. Say, Allah, I'm not strong enough inside to understand, firstly to comprehend this ruling, and secondly, to apply it in my life. Ya Allah, I want the easy road. Ya Allah, I want the road that suits my own ego. And that road, with A'udhu Billah, is the road to destruction. The road that suits my ego is the road to my own destruction. It's the road to my own destruction when A'udhu Billah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and failure in this world and the next. So let's not be in any doubt about the status of these people. They're the people who have saved the deen for us. They're the people that hafadul deen, protected the deen, and allowed the deen to flourish in order that we are able to live in the time and place in which we live in accordance with the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to lead. And as I said, that the Imam, in the preceding paragraphs and in the coming paragraphs also, that he set out for us all we need to know about how to deal with the world around us. So he says, وَجُمْلَةُ الْقَوْلِ قال الإمام رحمه الله رضي الله عنه وعنكم نفعنا به وبكم. It says وَجِمْلَةُ الْقَوْلِ فِي الرِّبَا أنه حرام بيع النقد بمثله كالفضة بالفضة والمطعوم بمثله كالحنطة بالحنطة إلا مثلا بمثل يدا بيد. فإن اختلف النوع كالذهب والفضة والتمر والحنطة جاز التفاضل ووجب التقابض في الحال. ولا ربا في بيع الحيوان بالحيوان والثوب بالثوب والمطعوم بالنقد.
The summation of the law for usury is that it renders illicit the trading of money for its kind, for instance silver for silver and food for its kind, for instance wheat for wheat, except when the amounts exchanged are exactly equal. If the kinds differ, for example gold for silver or dates for wheat, difference in value are allowed and payment should be immediate. There is no usury in trading an animal for an animal or a garment or food for money.
Alright, so when we talk about riba, we're talking about currency. So this is important for us to understand. It's not very complex like the other stuff we were doing. It's actually quite simple, but we'll go through it so we have an understanding of it. Okay, so riba, usury, only relates to what they call currency. Okay, so currency meaning I suppose the base unit that people use to buy and sell things. So currency, and we're talking about the Islamic example, is 3 aspects. They call it al-Haddad, so one of them is gold and silver. That's the essence of currency. Because why? They have an intrinsic value. In other words, gold is worth something in and of itself, as is silver. Not like paper or plastic in our money, Aussie money. It's worth something but extremely low value. And the second part is what they call staple foods. That's a currency. And this will show you the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you take a look at this. So the currency is the base unit. Currency being the base unit, the base way the trade is done. Basically what it's about. Okay? So the first way is gold and silver. And the second way is, who knows what a staple food is? Who can tell me?
Rice.
Okay, what does it mean? You did that's rice, yeah, but what is it?
Isn't that things that can reproduce itself?
It's kind of.
You can make stuff out of it.
So it's the base food that people need to survive. Right? It's the base food that people need to survive. And there's quite a few in the Sharia depending on which area you come from. So number one, of course, for the Arabs, is dates. Someone said rice. Someone said wheat. And you've got a few more. You've got adis, which is lentils. And you've got hummus, which is chickpeas. There's about 7 of them. Dates, rice, wheat, lentils, corn. And one more. Potatoes. That's only if you're Irish. Potatoes, unfortunately, doesn't. Look, it could be, depending on the area. Could be, depending on the area. But these are the ones that pretty much recognise. There's one more, I forget what it is. Recognise.
Peas?
No, not peas. It's like, you're getting the idea, which is good. It's the base things that if you only had dates, you could survive. Mahak? If you only had rice, you could survive. Wheat, you could survive. Lentils, you could survive.
Barley.
Chickpeas? Yeah, it might be barley. Alright? So that's the basis of it. If you had these things, you could survive. Just this one food, you'd be right to survive. Okay, you wouldn't live a lavish life, of course. So that's why they're currency in Sharia. In the Sharia, these are considered currency because what's really gold and silver about? Really, survival. Do you see the link between the two? So if you've got a couple of gold pieces, you should be able to buy these things to live. If you've got these things to live, you should be able to trade, this many dates for whatever, for a camel or sheep or an egg or whatever it might be.
Economics.
Exactly. This is economics of survival rather than the economics of the rich get rich and the poor get poor. Alright, is that straightforward? Any questions about any of that? Alright, so that's what the Imam's talking about in this paragraph. Says that any of these things,
What about an animal where you can live off?
it's not currency though. So like some animals, for example, the thing is, this is the base amount. Like you can have a kilo of rice and live off it, but a kilo of meat, you got to chop it off the cow. Once you chop it off the cow, cow's dead. So that's the kind of ideology behind it anyway. That it's a little bit is enough to keep you going. And sure, it's the same with meat, but then it's over, so to speak. The cow's gone. Whereas the tree can keep producing in the whatever other ways they have. All right. So what the Imam's talking about here is the basic type of riba. The first one he says. Did you read it in English?
Yeah.
He says that it's haram to sell different qualities of silver, like I said, this is الفضة بالفضة والمطعوم بمثله كالحنطة بالحنطة إلا مثلا بمثل يدا بيد. So this has to be done, the same quantities, the same styles, hand to hand. Alright, it has to be done right at the right time. Take the gold, give the gold. In the same amounts, same quantities, exactly at the same time. Therefore it's not riba.
So it can't be for gold and silver?
Yeah, that'll come next. All right, so it's got to be done exactly at the same, hand to hand. Because why? Values change. When the value changes, someone's going to get a profit for nothing. That's what riba is. You get what the Imam's saying?
So what about people how they buy gold when the currency, like the value of the gold goes down.
That's coming next. That's coming next. All right. So this is when two things are the same: gold with gold, silver with silver, dates with dates, rice with rice, etc., etc., etc. Yeah, you get what I'm saying? So there's different qualities of gold. There's 24 carat. You tell me. 18.
That's all.
9.
8.
Is it 8 carat as well?
There's rose gold. And
Okay.
gold.
There's different qualities. So it can't be done that way unless it's done at the same exact moment of time. So 24 carat gold for 18 carat gold has to be done hand to hand, straight at the same time. So ownership has to pass at the exact same time. So there isn't, it's called riba al-fadl, that there's someone gets more because 10 minutes later the gold's worth more or less, or the silver's worth more or less, or the dates are worth more or less, or the rice are worth more or less. Yeah?
So that's fine if they did a swap, but then after the values changed no matter what.
Yeah, that's different because at the time the transaction was conducted and completed more correctly, the value of that second class gold was the same as whatever, 2 kilos of whatever 8 carat gold were the same as 1 kilo of 24 carat gold, if that makes sense.
So that's okay to do that.
As long as it's exactly the same time, hand swapping.
So like for example, me and Jasmine, like right now doing it.
Exactly, hand to hand.
Okay.
Alright? And then he says, and the same with all these things. If it's the same style, so if it's dates for dates, rice for rice, wheat for wheat, etc., etc., gold for gold, silver for silver. So if it's the same thing.
You know how you said like 18 karat gold for 24 karat gold?
Yep.
That's okay as well?
Yes.
So, but you can't do like dates for rice?
Well, you can, but it's a different ruling for that. This is at exactly the same time the transaction has to be completed. If it's two of the same type of staple or currency, naqd they call it. Okay, if it's the same gold for gold, then you'll get on, just go slowly and the rest will come. And we read it anyway. فَإِنِ اخْتَلَفَ النَّوْعُ. So if there's two different types, gold for silver, dates for rice, silver for wheat, yeah, so if they're not the same, then it's okay to do that. اختلف النوع كالذهب بالفضة والتمر بالحنطة جاز التفاضل ووجب التقابض في الحال. So you can do that. You can do that. You can. The difference between is at roughly the same amount of time. So if the trade is done, then roughly the same amount, the same time that you swap things over. You swap dates for gold or whatever it might be. Okay, at the same amount of time. Not hand for hand, but hand for hand is different. It's right at the same time, so there's no difference in the value. ولا ربا في بيع الحيوان. So it doesn't apply to other things. And this is what you were mentioning about animals. It doesn't apply to animals, an animal for an animal, a deer for a calf, for example, or whatever it might be. 2 goats for a cow, or whatever it might be. Nor for clothes. Okay? Nor food for currency. So that means that if I've got 10 kilos of dates and you say, oh, I'll give you 2 gold pieces, it's all right. I'll get them off you later. It's all right. It doesn't have to be in the same transaction. This is the essence of riba. That's why the Imam goes through it. This is the essence of how riba works. And so, the people that buy gold, and it's all right. They're buying currency. They're paying. They're not. It's not gold for gold. You get me? It's not gold for gold. They're gold for currency. So they're saying that I'm going to give whatever $400 and get an ounce of gold. And later on, if the price goes up, I'm going to sell it. But what am I getting? Is it the same? Is it gold for gold? No. What's currency worth? Basically nothing, but it's a bit of paper that's backed, so that's what they say by the Reserve Bank. You get me? But it's a bit economics. You have to kind of have some idea about economics.
Sorry, Shaykh, I'm only confused by, just the first sentence of that part, how it goes, the summation of usury or usury?
Yep, usury, yeah.
Usury is that it renders illicit the trading of money. So, because it says...
It says بِالنَّقْد بِمِثْلِهِ. So money with the same. What's after it? Money with money.
Money for its kind.
But it says, I'm only confused because it says illicit, so it's not allowed.
It's not allowed unless it's under those. So, for example, if you have 24 karat gold, 1 kilo, and I have 8 karat gold, 2 kilos, right? And I say to you, oh, let's swap. I'll buy your 1 kilo of 24 karat gold for my 2 kilos of 8 karat gold. You say, yeah, okay, no worries. You say, oh, my 8 karat gold's down the road. It becomes riba. If you have to go all the way down the road and get it and bring it back, that's riba because the value, right. So it's haram unless it's what? Hand to hand. Okay, with the same category of currency. These are all currency. 1 and 2 are all currency. You with me?
Yeah.
So if you say all of this is currency, that's the whole point of it. So when it goes to trading currency, when it's the same category of currency, gold, silver, dates, rice, it has to be done instantaneously. If it changes, if it's different types, then these are the different rules that are applied. Why? So we can understand the riba. Riba meaning, what does riba mean?
Making money for nothing.
It means Arabic, it means extra. Right? Extra. So money for nothing, basically. That's where it's either makruh if it's commission or haram if it's riba. Alright? Like it is a bit of a complex area, don't get me wrong. So it's just the basic understanding of why. Because what happens when people control currency? What happens when people control dates? What happens, and this is the next line anyway, the Shaykh, the Imam talks about it. It says, وَإِيَّاكَ وَالْإِحْتِكَارِ. And this is الاحتكار, the meaning of it. وَهُوَ أَن تَشْتَرِي طَعَامًا تُعَظِّمَ الْحَاجَةَ إِلَيْهِ وَتُدَخِّرْهُ بِنِيَّةِ الْغَلَاءِ.
Beware of ihtikar, which is to buy food which is much needed and then hoard it until the price goes up.
Alright? So this is all the things they do. I remember one time when I was a kid watching TV with my dad, Allah yarhamu, he used to always watch the news. And what happened? The price of flour was going up. So it was going down, not flour, wheat was going down, so they just set it on fire. They set all these massive silos on fire. It was on the news, like, they're not shy to show it. And later on, a couple of years later, the price of lambs were going down, so they were shooting the lambs in the head. And the farmer was just going, shooting all the sheep to raise up the price. And this is a little bit different. This is hoarding it. So you buy all the stock, and this is why in Islam, it's haram to have a monopoly. Right, so there's laws against that in our countries, and anti-competition laws and all these types of things. So, but to have a monopoly is haram. How can you control the suq? How can you control the market? Then you can do whatever you want, and that's where oppression. That's the essence of oppression, and that's the reason why we have poverty pretty much today. That's the reason why we have us, the 10%, using 90% of the world's resources. That's why the shoes that we wear, or the clothes that we wear, or the phones that we have, they cost whatever $100 to produce or even less, because those countries, the economy is kept in that way, and the people in those countries are kept under the poverty line in order that we get cheap products. It's as simple as that. It's dhulm, and dhulm is haram. Oppression in any form, economic in itself, is haram. Economic oppression is haram. That's why we have zakat. Zakat relieves economic oppression. So you can't just be super wealthy and hoard your money and then not give your money to people. It's haram to even hoard your money. Unless you say, in other words, saving money in and of itself is haram. Unless you're saving for a reason. You're buying a phone, you want to go to Hajj, you want to, buy a house, buy a car, something like that. But if you're just saving for the sake of saving, it's haram. Because money's got to move. And when money moves, people eat, so to speak. But when money is controlled by a very small amount of people, and that's when people starve. So, to gather things, gather goods, especially these goods, even in Shar'an, if someone's bringing these things to the market and you go out to meet the person, it's even haram to meet them out there to buy it, because the person who's selling it doesn't know what the price is in the market. It's, oh no, I'll take it off you for this much. So it should come into the market. That's how fair the system is in Islamic economics. It should come into the market so people can look at the quality of it, look at what it's like, what else is going on, because supply and demand. But these artificial factors, and look at that, most of the farmers in the United States in particular and in Australia, the only reason they're surviving is from government subsidies. So the government plays with the economists and all these people, play with the market so they can make sure the price of what they have is high. And look at petrol, it used to be $1.70, now it's like $1, because they play with the oil to bring the price down. So they can't do that stuff. The market, Shar'an, the market has to determine what the price is by supply and demand. That way there's equity. There's a lot of something, it's cheap. One time they came and complained to one of the Imams. They said to him, oh yeah, Imam, meat is very, very expensive. He said, let it go cheap by leaving it. So don't eat meat, it'll go cheap because there's no demand. But people can't do that because they love meat. It says, now this is an extremely, all of what the Imam's saying is extremely important, but this point I think will give us a highlight into our own lives and to our own intentions when we live and when we eat, etc. He said, well, amru thalith, so the third point, the first point is about where you take gifts from, the three different categories. The second point is about riba, pretty much. And the third point is about, he says, an inhimak. And basically this is a preoccupation or being engrossed or absorbed في شهوات الدنيا والتبسط في ملذوذاتها. فعند ذلك يعصر الورع ويضيق الحلال فإن هذا الصرف والحلال لا يحتمل الصرف. وأما من غرضه من الدنيا أخذ قدر الضرورة أو الحاجة فالورع ميسر له.
Thirdly, they are engrossed in the world's cravings and indulge abundantly in his pleasures. Scrupulousness under such circumstances becomes difficult and the lawful is narrowed down. Lawful things do not bear extravagance. On the other hand, scrupulousness is rendered easy for those who want only what is necessary from the world.
So this goes back to our intentions. Do you mind reading that again? I think everyone read it slowly. Everyone's got access to look at it. Read it. When it's being read, read it as well. Nice and slow if you don't mind.
Thirdly, they are engrossed in the world's cravings and indulge abundantly in his pleasures. Scrupulousness under such circumstances becomes difficult and the lawful is narrowed down. Lawful things do not bear extravagance. On the other hand, scrupulousness is rendered easy for those who want only what is necessary from the world.
So this goes back to how we lead our lives. That's what the Imam's talking about. And for us, it's such an important point. It's such an important point. What is it that we want from our lives? What is it that we want from our eating and our drinking? What is it that we want from our purchasing, whatever it might be? And unfortunately, whether we realize it or not, we're consumers. Whenever we feel upset, whenever we feel under pressure, we go out and we buy something. Whenever we have money in our pocket, we feel obliged to buy something for ourselves rather than give it away to somebody else. That's the Islamic way. That's how the Prophet ﷺ showed us. That's how Aisha showed us. That's how Uthman, Abu Bakr, Sayyidina Umar, that's how they showed us. That when you've got extra money, you don't buy something for yourself, you give it to others. That's the determination of one's faith. Al-inhimak. So it's to one being preoccupied or engrossed or absorbed in what they desire. And the things they desire. That's what they're involved in. On this app to buy this, and this app, this is on watching, and this app is on wish list. Isn't that what it is when you go into a site? Wish list. And they know you're not going to buy it, but you're wishing to have it one day, we wish it was inshallah. He says, and then a person at the basut, that a person is expansive in the luxuries of life. That's what they go for. And look at the people around us. Look at our own lives. What are we after? That which is luxurious. We're not after the basic necessities. No way. The basic, I'm not basic, man. I'm above that. I'm better than that. That's what we think to ourselves, whether we realize it or not. I deserve more than that. I have determined for myself that I deserve more than that. And he says, so when a person hits this state, and this is why we have this issue of halal and haram. The Imam's saying, when a person reaches this state, it's difficult to have scrupulousness in their dealings because it's about excess and scrupulousness, as he says. And the more that one is indulged in luxurious things, the more difficult it is to find those things which are halal. So you want to buy a Ferrari, hey, you got to get into riba because it's luxurious. And there's no Ferrari for $5,000 that I know of that works and whatever else. You want to buy the best clothes, you're going to have to use a credit card because you don't have the money with you. The best watch, the best phone, the best sunglasses, the best handbag, the best shoes, the best. When all the billah in the end, one's going to fall into riba, and that's the world around us. Not happy with this kitchen, not happy with this bathroom, not happy with this bed. Riba, when all the billah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or mashbuh, things that are doubtful. Okay? فَإِنَّ هَذَا الصَّرْفِ وَالْحَلَالِ لَا يَحْتِمِلْ. This is israf. This is excess, opulence, waste, extravagance. Where's that in our deen? Who does that? The shaitan. The shaitan does that. So, but al-halal لا يحتمل الصرف. You can't have israf if you're in halal. Halal is talking about your basic needs. So these two are diametrically opposed. You can't have luxuriousness and halal is basically what he's getting down to, the Imam. Doesn't work. The more luxurious, the less halal, generally speaking. The more luxurious, the less halal. The harder it is to come by. It's in a different category. It's in a different class. It says, وَأَمَّا مِنْ مَنْ غَرْضُهُ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا أَخْذُ الْقَدْرِ الضَّرُورَةِ. So the one who's gharad, the one who's, what does he say in English for gharad? The one whose intention, his purpose.
Scrupulousness is rendered easy for one, for those who want only what is necessary from the world.
So it doesn't really, but the gharad is the good. The one who's, it also means purpose as well, but it talks about, so that's why the Imams used that word, because it has two connotations. Purpose and good. In other words, good meaning product. Product. A thing. A thing. Gharad. Yeah, gharad is a thing. You know, it's sil'a. In Arabic is another word for it. It's a product. A gharad. It's a thing that's used. And also it can mean an intention or a resolve. Okay, so that's why the Imams used this word. So whoever's products in this world are just about halal and to take what is necessary, then of course it's easy to find it. And we all know that. When you start wanting to eat veal and, you know, lamb rashers and types of hamburgers and special types of cakes, and what happens? Inevitably it's in haram, but if you want to keep things simple, Lebanese bread for example, peanut butter, some type of cheese, yogurt, generally it's a lot easier to find it. Alhamdulillah, everyone's nodding, that's a good thing. Alright, so that's what the Imam's talking about. That's what the reference the Imam is giving. That the more we try and live luxuriously, the more, and look, the other thing is that those things are generally the kind of the abode of the disbelievers. So having those types of things. So if we want to have what they have, then are we following them?
Yeah.
So that's the question we have to ask ourselves. Why am I looking for this thing? Is it just to increase the flavors that I have so I know what Jannah is like so I work harder for Allah? Oh, that's okay. But is it just so I can be like everyone else so I don't feel like I've been left out? Then I've got a problem. Because the person who follows the disbelievers will be gathered with them on the day of judgment. Ta'ala. So he says, قال حجة الإسلام نفع الله به وإذا اقتنعت في السنة بقميص خشن وفي اليوم والليلة برغفين من الخشكار لم يعوزك من الحلال ما يكفيك فإن الحلال كثير وليس عليك أن تتيقن باطل الأمور بل عليك أن تحترز من كل ما تعمله حراما أو تظنه ظنا حصل من علامة ناجزة مقرونة بالمال. That's the end of it. انتهى.
Summarizing the whole chapter in this one. The proof of Islam, may God spread His benefit, anhu, has said, if you are content with one rough shirt a year and 2 loaves of coarse grain each day, you will never be sure of your lawful sufficiency, for the lawful is abundant. You are not required to investigate deep into everything, but just to be wary of that which you either know is unlawful or suspect it to be so from any evident indications associated with the money.
And that's what we've been talking about the whole time. It's a summary. Right? So you want to live large, you want to live lavish, you want to live luxurious, basically you're going to fall into haram. You want to live simple, you want to live basic. And look, that doesn't mean that you live like a pauper. You know, it's today in the da'wah, especially calling to Allah Azza wa Jal, if you live so differently from everyone else, it's difficult for people to, like I said to you the other time, we were speaking to this class, I don't know, we said it was a different class. One of the really rich men that we met in Yemen, and he's got all the cars, but you should see the room he sleeps in. It's got a very, very thin mattress, a little bit of blanket over the top of it, a tiny pillow, and that's it. All the other rooms in his house, he's a very, very wealthy man from the Emirates. and on the outside it looks like he's got everything and he loves but he doesn't. He's not into it, but he has to do it because that's his status in society. That's his place. That's what Allah's put him. But you go to how he eats, anything, leftovers from, we went there, we hung out with the guy, leftovers from yesterday, whatever's there, he eats it, never complains. He's got servants, he's got cooks, and who are they for? All the guests that are in his house. All the guests, that's what it's all there for. And this is one of the Salihin, alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. But it's not that he's into it, he lives as he has to live, alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. And in the image, when you go to his lounge room, when you go to the other rooms, the bathroom, everything's extravagant. Everything's extravagant, but that's because Allah's given him a lot of money. He doesn't seek to be that way, but he lives to that status. So if Allah's given you money, alhamdulillah, Allah's given you wealth, don't live like a pauper. And if you have the capacity to buy a Bentley and you don't go on riba, hey, buy it. As long as you're giving your zakat and doing whatever, there's no reason. But it's the question here is the striving to live luxuriously, and the point of one's life is to be, VIP and everything and the best of everyone and everything all the time. That's what the Imam's talking about. If you've got it, Allah loves to see the ni'mah. Allah has blessed someone with finances and money. Allah loves to see that person enjoying it. As long as it's not what? Israf. So that means they're paying their zakat. It means if you've got money and you were going to buy a Bentley, and someone comes to you and says, oh, this person's, they're starving, they're not eating, no more Bentley. Does that make sense? It's that easy. And how many stories of the awliya, they were going to go to Hajj, and they heard their neighbour, for example, had no money or whatever it was, so they, instead of going to Hajj, they gave the money to that person. Then when the people came back from Hajj, they came to congratulate him. He said, why is congratulating me? They go, we saw you at Hajj. You never went to Hajj. You never went to the Arabian Peninsula. But Allah Azza wa Jal sent an angel to look like him to go do, because his Hajj was accepted without him even going. Now, I'm not saying that you don't go on Hajj either. What I'm saying is that the money that you have, that Allah has given you, the disposable income, if someone's needy, rather than saving it, and that's the meaning of living a life that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with. That if you can get a Bentley, hey, get it. If someone needs it, don't worry about the Bentley. And it doesn't sit in there, oh, if I didn't give that money, I wouldn't have had a Bentley, I would have had a Bentley. That's it. What Allah wants, the pleasure of Allah in that given moment, in that given time, the person uses that money to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No.
Yeah. Like in the city, you see many homeless, etc. Like you don't know what they're going to use with the money. Except we just have like husnul dhan, or what do we do in that situation?
Well, I think we've spoken about this before.
Oh, maybe I wasn't there.
Maybe you were here.
Yeah.
Like, so it's a bit hard, because, but like I said, one person was saying that, look, if we don't give them the money, they're going to go steal and do whatever, and it's up to them what they do with it. Other people have the idea of, that buy them food or whatever the case might be, but most of the time, not all the time, a lot of those people that have bad habits, if you want to give to those homeless people, look, there's guys and ladies that sell that magazine, I forget what it's called. The Big Issue. Yeah, those people, they're trying to get their act together. That's a good thing to do. When you buy that magazine, it's about $7. Half of it goes to the vendor, the person selling it, and half of it goes back to the magazine. So what you can do is give them a bit extra if you want to give to them. It's up to you how you feel with the homeless people. It's one of those, it's up to you where you want to take it. If you want to have the intention to give them the money so they don't steal, they don't do whatever, if it's for the intention of da'wah, then it's a good thing to do. If you want to buy them some food, that's a good thing to do. Look, it's a big problem, unfortunately, in the cities, and a lot of those people, unfortunately, they have mental health issues, and even in jails, a lot of people that are in jail have mental health issues, and unfortunately, that's pretty much an epidemic, and it's not really being treated very well. So, again, as a community, we have to also come together, and we have to do things together to alleviate those issues, not only for Muslims but for non-Muslims. And imagine if we had something like that. I mean, there's the brothers, they call them the white coats. They go out and they feed the homeless. It's a good thing. So maybe donate with them if that's a. And there's one of the brothers has got a Facebook page that's called Sleeping Bags for the Homeless. So I think it's only about $50, and they buy sleeping bags, especially now it's coming to winter. Or take them your clothes. They can use your clothes, especially if you've got nice warm jackets and things like that. Or buy them a jacket, something like that, where will become useful to the person that is in need. But it's a bit of a hard one because of the substance abuse problem. But as well, they're not Muslims, most of them anyway. So there's no haraj for you. They're not obliged to follow the Sharia because they're not Muslims? It's a good question. Jazakallah khair. Any other questions? So that's the essence of it, what Imam Ghazali said there in that chapter. And as I said previously, I've been saying that if you really want to know how to live life and you really want to be successful in your path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, these last few lessons of what Imam al-Haddad has been saying, really they're more valuable than currency. Way more valuable than currency. I don't think enough currency could purchase them. And the ulama of haqiqah, the scholars of truth say that the two people's books you should stick to at the end of time, or three people's actually, as the statements of Imam Ali, because there's a lot of fitna, the books of Imam al-Ghazali, and the books of Imam al-Haddad. Because they kind of transcend the time, or they speak relevant to our time. So and the Imam, like I said, he lays it out very, very clearly in terms of our outlook on the world and how we want to live our lives, and what our purpose is in terms of the way we consume and the way we live. Any questions about any of those things?
Are there any reliable sources where we can get Imam Ali's quotes?
There's a book called Sijal al-Hamam bi Aqwal al-Imam. I forget who the author is. That's a good book.
Sijal al-Hamam?
Sijal. Yeah, al-Hamam bi Aqwal al-Imam. It talks about all the different... It's just like one-line quotes of it, but there's some shuruh as well. They talk a little bit what it means.
I got one in Lebanon, it has 1,000 quotes from Imam Ali, but I'm not sure how reliable.
You have to look at the author, who the author is, and then see. If the author is someone who's reliable and reputable, then you can use it. Otherwise, then just
yeah.
Nah.
What were the three Imams you were saying just then?
Imam Ali, Allahumma rad anhu, any of his statements, Imam al-Ghazali, and Imam al-Haddad. So at the end of time, their books will, inshallah, guide us from the fitan and the trials and tribulations of our times, bi'idhnillah ta'ala.
It's quickly as well for the riba, the first type of the trading kind for kind, it has to be instantaneous. Otherwise it becomes riba.
It becomes riba.
The second one, trading something, one thing for another.
Yep.
So there's a bit more allowance for a time.
There's a bit more allowance, yeah.
But otherwise it becomes riba as well.
As well, because the fluctuation is going to occur as well.
Yeah. But the last one, there's no riba at all, because the last is trading money for anything else.
Yeah, there's no riba.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions before we leave? Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salam ala khayr banam wa ala alihi wa sahbihi sallam ya arhamar rahimin. Alhamdulillah bi rahmatika al-wasi'a yasribuna bil hayat wa ba'da ma tatabbiq aqdamna ala sirat mustaqim ya arhamar rahimin. بارك لنا في هذا الشهر الكريم وبلغنا رمضان يا أرحم الراحمين واجعلنا من الموفقين في هذا الشهر العظيم يا أرحم الراحمين اجعلنا من الذين يستمعون القول ويتبعون أحسن يا أرحم الراحمين نسألك أن توفقنا لما هو خير لنا في الحياة وبعد الممات ونسألك يا أرحم الراحمين أن تثبت أقدامنا على الصراط المستقيم وتدخلنا الجنة بلا عذاب ولا حساب يا أرحم الراحمين. Allah, we ask to forgive us and forgive our sins and elevate our status in this life and the next. Ya Allah, we ask to benefit us from the knowledge which we've learnt, Ya Arhamar Rahimin, and assist us to apply it in our lives, Ya Allah, so it becomes our methodology and our way and our philosophy in all things that we do, Ya Allah. Help us to come from those people who spend their money only to please you, Ya Arhamar Rahimin, and who have an outlook on life which is only to please you, Ya Arhamar Rahimin, in the ways in which you are pleased. Ya Allah, we ask you to put blessing in this gathering and to put blessing in the lives of those who have organised this gathering, Ya Arhamar Rahimin, and who have permitted to use this place, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, we ask you, Ya Arhamar Rahim, to forgive our sins and their sins. Ya Allah, we ask you to elevate our status and their status. Ya Allah, we ask you to make us of the scholars who are beneficial, Ya Arhamar Rahimin. And we ask you, Ya Arhamar Rahimin, to give us more of the beneficial knowledge in order that we may apply it in our lives, Ya Arhamar Rahimin. خير لطف وعافية ولا حضرة النبي بالسر الفاتحة.